and welcome to, Eli and I's Eternal set review for Kaldheim. We'll be going through what the cards we think are beneficial or good for Eternal formats. That means Modern, Vintage, Legacy, Commander, maybe Pioneer, who knows. Yeah, it'll be like another one of these Magic podcasts where there's somebody who is wildly unqualified talking and then a Pro Tour winner. So you can figure that out. But
Winning formula.
we're here with Eli, and we're gonna just go right into it with the cards from Kaldheim here. We're gonna start off with the white cards, of course, because why not?
Yeah, Woodburg order is important,
So our first card is Usher of the Fallen. It's a spirit, which is, great. For me, not for Eli, of course, because I'm known for playing spirits, obviously. But it's as you can see with the image here, it's a 1-mana 2/1, which is probably going to be enough for standard. But what do you think about in maybe modern spirits or like pioneer spirits?
Spirits is kind of getting like a little bit of a baby resurgence. There are some motor grinders making waves in modern. Dr. Queller, I know, has been doing well. I don't remember the name of the Pioneer guy. I'll have to look that up later. But he's doing well in Pioneer with a different build as well. And this is just a tribe that is pretty close to being tier 1, but it was always missing playable cheap cards. So whenever there's a cheap spirit, I usually like to keep an eye out on it because that tribe is really close to being good, but it needs a little bit of help. This might be what you need. I'm not exactly sure. My main concern is that it doesn't fly, but it does have 2 power for 1 mana, so
So
might be good enough.
do you think it takes over like a spot for one of the blue 1-drops?
Well, you could I know they were playing Spectral Sailor before, and that card is powerful in longer games, but you were already kind of good because of all of the hexproof going on in grindy matchups. Your issue was that you couldn't get enough power on the board fast enough.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. Then you just
So this helps you out a little bit more.
it makes it less mopey.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you say that it's better for pioneer spirits or for modern spirits, or is there any other places where you think you could see this coming in?
In Pioneer, I think the lack of flying might hurt you a little bit more. In Modern, there's a little bit less blocking sometimes. I think that it's a little bit more helpful in Modern.
Well, I think we're going to break our first rule here. I said we were going to start off with just the white cards, but I think because we're talking about spirits, we can talk about Ascendant Spirit anyway, because that's the other one in this conversation. And this one seems like it might be a little more interesting for spirit decks because you'll have to mess with the mana base quite a bit to fit this card in. Is it worth messing with the mana base?
Yeah, so this one requires you to play a lot of basic lands. This way, I feel the opposite. I think in Pioneer, you might be able to get away with more basic lands, whereas with Modern, you can play cards like Seachrome Coast, which are pretty powerful, more fetch lands, and in fetch lands in Modern as well. No Flooded Strand available in Pioneer. So I think this one might be able to see some Pioneer play, whereas it'd be difficult to slot it into the Modern one as it is currently built.
Okay, so we got that out of the way, so we don't have to talk about spirits ever again.
Yeah, we put it in a little box, put it off to the side,
So our next card is one that I think a lot of control majors are going to be very happy to see, and that I, the aggro player, and you, the aggro player, also are just not going to be excited to see, and that's Doomscar, the 5-mana or the 3-mana foretell Wrath of God. So what about this one?
This one I think is kind of a miss for Eternal formats. It might be okay in Pioneer, but it's kind of got the bonus is that you can set aside 2 mana and then Wrath on turn 3. That's kind of the joke, but that might come up every once in a while. But normally, you can get away with a turn 4 Wrath of God. Like the point of the Wrath of God is to catch you back up, and if you're that far behind already on turn 3, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit too cute.
Yeah, I feel like this one's going to be really good in Standard, and It might make the cut in EDH, but there's a lot of wraths you can play. It depends on the colors you're playing and all that. But for 5 mana, like Fumigate at least gave you a little bit of life if you're just, hard casting it for the full cost. Because it still costs 5 anytime you're going to cast it. It's just, you kind of get them with the trap card, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Here. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything in Modern that Blue-White's going to want, because they already have Supreme Verdict. They have Wrath of God available. They have other ones that I think would be better than this one. So
Yeah, if you wanted like a 3 mana card to stabilize, they have access to timely reinforcements too.
yeah. So let's hit the next one, which I think some people might be excited for, and that is Rally the Ranks. This goes directly into any white tribal creature deck. I don't think it goes into humans, but I'm going to ask you if it does.
Now, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to cast that with all your Ancient Ziggurats and Cavern of Souls. But this is kind of like a borderline card. But I wanted to include it because Honor de Pure, I think, it used to be modern playable, and this is sort of the same thing, maybe a little bit more flexible. Instead of only playing white creatures, you only can play one creature type, but that might be easier to pull off in some circumstances. So a little bit of a side grade, but I think one worthy of keeping your eye on.
Okay, that one seems like if there's like a true white weenie deck that ever pops up that doesn't play, a game like humans, that it might go in, but Honor the Pure just seems like it's better. I don't know. The next one we'll go into is Halvar, God of Battle. And so this one is the first of our gods, our flip gods that we're going to see here, and also probably the first really true EDH playable card. But I'll get into that after we talk about the modern and pioneer and legacy effects here. The first question, because I know you and I had to look this up, does this work with Stoneforge Mystic?
Okay, so the way that the double face cards work is that it's always the front side in any zone other than the battlefield. So if it's in your graveyard, it's Halvar. If it's in your library, it's Halvar. But when you cast it, you get your choice of Halvar or Sword of the Realms.
Okay, so yeah, I know in EDH you can cast either side from the command zone, which is why this card should see play in EDH, or I guess if you're playing a mono white equipment deck, but whatever. Where do you see this maybe popping up? Is this maybe your first sort of legacy playable card, or probably not? But what do you think?
Yeah, normally I wouldn't give this kind of card the time of day, but we've been seeing that the Hammer Time deck in Modern has been pretty solid, actually, surprisingly, proven itself to not be a meme. This card, it's close in a lot of aspects. Like, creatures you control that are equipped have double strike. That's great in Hammer because it makes it so that any of your creatures are a one-hit kill and not just Drakemoth Nexus. But the second ability actually doesn't quite do what you want, because you can get a free equip, which is great for Hammer, but only for a card that's only once you've already done it. So a little bit of a miss there. It's a little bit expensive for that deck too as well. That deck has a lot of cheap cards, but being okay on the back half, if you already have a creatures, you can protect them with the sword, sort of. I don't know. It seems close, maybe not there, maybe in the right sort of metagame for the Hammer Time deck. I think this is an okay card.
Yeah, I could see it coming in someplace just because it's two cards in one, and white decks also got what's the card called? Skyclave Apparition, but they still do need more help in Modern and Pioneer and Legacy and everywhere else. Maybe not Legacy, you have D&T there. But for our next card, we're going to be talking about, as I wanted to call it, Baddock Teague. And as you wrote on our spreadsheet here, Bad Gaddock Teague. And that is Raidan, God of the Worthy, and then Valkmira, Protector Shield on the back half. What do you think about this one?
Okay, so it is not as good as Gaddock Teague, but you're only in one color. And a bad Gaddock Teague is still a Gaddock Teague. You don't really want to get distracted by the snow permanent part. This is just Gaddock Teague, but with a worse ability and better stats, which I think is still a pretty good Magic card. You can play this in sort of any use. You can put this in Death and Taxes strategies in Modern and in Legacy, because in there splashing is even worse in Legacy. So it could be good there as a way to stop combo cards or a way to protect yourself from Wrath of God. As far as the back half goes, it's a little bit more situational. I think it's not going to come up as often as just having uh, half a galaxy on a 2/3 flyer, which is pretty solid. So the shield, not as good.
Yeah, the
Don't
shield I
worry
can
about
see
that.
is just like a break glass in case of emergency card if you're playing against burn or mill and they don't have, that much mana lying around.
Yeah, like specifically like Grape Shot comes to mind as just like, but yeah, there's less applications for the shield. It's just focus on the front half.
And also any card that stops people from playing snow permanents or like making snow stuff like bad, you got my heart. So
Yeah, it's even better than Legacy. Oh wait, did they ban it? They Astrolabe? Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
gone.
Astrolabe's gone, but
Yeah,
so I think that's
just in case.
our first maybe legacy playable card here, but we'll keep forging on with the white cards. And here's our last white card, and that is Glorious Guardian. And I know for a fact that you love yourself a good Restoration Angel. I love a Restoration Angel. I love Court of Calling for Restoration Angel. So what do you think about Restoration Angel here 2.0?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that some of the white cards in this set are Avacyn restored cards, but with Foretold. You know, I'll never say no to a little bit of Restoration Angel nostalgia. This one is a little bit different though because you don't like the blink effect. You don't get your card back until the angel dies, which makes it a little bit different. So if you can protect your creatures from Wrath of God in addition to removal spells, because you can blink everything, but it's a little bit more awkward because they will stay under the angel. So it could also mean that it's more of a combo piece than Restoration was. Restoration Angel combos with Kiki Jiki, but this card if you're in EDH, it goes really well with a sack outlet plus Karmic Guide. Like you can loop pretty easily with a card like that. In Modern, it's a little bit harder to do that because you're missing the reanimate creature. You have to work a little bit harder there, but there is some potential.
Yeah, there's obviously some. It's a solid card. You just look at it and it's solid, and so it's less easy to cast because it's the double white. But I think there's some room in Modern or Pioneer for this sort of card to work, especially if blue white control or something picks up, and this is pretty good at protecting your board against a wrath. So that's it for the white cards. And we actually already did the first blue card. I know when we made the spreadsheet, we kind of had to pump up the numbers for the blue cards. Luckily, we got a last-minute blue card off the top rope here in Orvar the All Form. And so I'll just say it right off the bat. The easiest way that you could see this is if your opponent pluses Liliana the Veil, and then you put this into play and copy it or something like that. But is there anything else you can see for this card?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a bit of a history for cards with the I guess we'll call it the Obstinate Baloth ability being played in Modern, just as a way to have sideboard hate against your Kroxa, your Liliana of the Veil, maybe your Raven's Crime sort of strategies. And this is the first time I think that it's ever been on a mono blue card, which is interesting. You don't get, and note that you don't. It's not quite the same as Obstinate Baloth. You don't get Orvar himself into play. You get a token, a clone token, which is maybe better, maybe worse. Orvar is not got the most rockin' stats that I've ever seen. So it might be an upgrade for a Primeval Titan sort of strategy. Those sort of decks are playing a lot of more. They're playing blue They're playing blue now sometimes, and a clone token is usually better than a 4/4 gain 4 in those decks because you might be able to copy a Primeval Titan.
Yeah, I think the time of Obstinate Baloth has long passed in Modern, with burn decks being better than they were. What was it? Let's say 5 years ago to be nice. And Jund, I think at this point can handle a 4/4 pretty well also. But this one leads to some interesting possibilities. And the first line of text, I think, is probably also just more there for EDH. Maybe there's something messed up, but that's not really how my brain works, is to think in terms of instant or sorcery spells, really. So
Yeah, that part is not as easy to pull off in Modern, I think.
yeah, I'll let somebody else who's way smarter than me figure that out.
Yeah, note that the discard ability it's not target creature, it's target permanent. So in a deck like Amulet Titan, even if you don't have anything going on and they plus Liliana, you can make this a Simic Growth Chamber, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's also pretty nice.
Yeah.
So our boy Orvar might do it, but the next card, when you told me, or when we were talking about the math for it, and I remember dying laughing because of the Frank Karsten tweet. But the next card is Mystic Reflection, which is also another foretell card. But this is a pretty interesting one because obviously you can copy, or you get to copy whatever your thing is entering play. But copying Master of Waves is really the main event here, I think.
Yeah, Modern, somewhat of a meme format. Like, I love it to death, but like the truth has to be told. And the Frank Karsten, like the meme will ever live on of the Frank Karsten making a graph of the exponential growth of Master of Wave tokens going from, one Blue Devotion gets you 8 power, and then 2 Blue Devotion gets you like 36, and then 4 gets you like 175, and it's all very specific numbers, like, I have to acknowledge the meme.
The funniest thing about this card was that you cannot go infinite. There is not a way to go infinite unless you have, million. I think if you have anything that doubles like triggers entering play, like Yarok or whatever, like you still have to find what the exact number is, and you cannot go above that, and you cannot go below that. You get the number that you get.
We're not going infinite. Just very, very high.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not tapping my Devoted Druid for infinite mana here. I'm making 928 Master of Waves tokens, and you can go. So yeah, I think this one might be too much of a meme, but we just had to put it on here because of that. It's fun, and because there's probably something that's really messed up you can do with this in EDH. So once again, people who are smarter than me that like thinking with numbers like that, the only numbers I worry about are if it has 4 next to the attack or whatever.
3 in the CMC and 4 in the power.
Yeah, that's all I care about, really.
We'll get to that later.
So the next card and the last blue card we're going to talk about is more of an EDH card. Maybe it could see play in sideboards of mono blue decks, but this would be Raven Form. I put this one on here because this is obviously an EDH All-Star for blue decks.
Yeah, we've seen this type of effect before. You got your rapid hybridizations, your Pognifies. Kill a thing and give them some sort of consolation prize. The thing that is notable about this one specifically is that it hits artifacts, so it's a little bit more flexible than some of those other Pognify effects. So you might see this in like Merfolk or Mono blue decks that don't have access to good removal spells otherwise to deal with artifacts specifically.
Yeah, this is just specifically one of those ones that's like, hey, we're going to break the color pie. So I don't want to get into a color pie talk either. This is not the place for that. But
yeah,
go to Twitter.
It's a unique effect that you have to keep in mind.
Okay, so that's it for the blue cards. We had a couple here, but now we have what I would probably say. I'm just looking at our list, just so I don't look like an idiot when I say that this is probably the most interesting card in the set. And it's the one that I would want to talk about the most, and that is Valki, God of Lies, which flips into, or is the back half is Tybalt, Cosmic Imposters. So, what do you want to say about Valki?
Okay, so this one, it's a flip card with the Planeswalker. There's a lot going on here. So the first thing to notice about this card is that it's insanely good against Uro, which is the best card in all of Magic right now. That's a really big bonus going for Valki. So the play pattern is, if you're following along with us, you play Valki. The ETB happens. You look at their hand and take the Uro out of it. You're exiling it so that it doesn't go to the graveyard. Then you untap, hopefully, and then you pay 3 mana, and you make Valki into a copy of Uro, and then you attack them and give them a taste of their own medicine. Dirty Uro player.
Yeah, so it's a lot like Lazov in that way in the Kethis deck in Historic. I remember when when I saw the first time somebody put Uro in the deck and I was like, the fuck you playing Uro? Like, okay, sure. And then it was like, oh, you can copy it and you just have a 3-mana, you just have a free Uro in play. You don't need to put it back into play or whatever. So the first half of this, yeah, it seems really good against Uro. It seems like it's pretty aggressively pushed here. So for the back half, which is the 7-mana Tybalt, are you going to play red for this card, or are you just trying to cast the front side? What's going on here?
Yeah, so there are some decks where the red will matter a little bit more. Like for example, Jund in Modern, you kind of get a free roll, an insane Bloodbraid Elf hit because if you cascade into a flip card, you can cast it because it costs 2, but then it's a flip card, so you get to pick a side. So that's great. So that's pretty cool. In other decks, like in Legacy, we played a Esper Flicker deck, and I think that you just aren't gonna like put a red land in your deck, but you can still play Valky as kind of like a reverse. It's like a reverse Kite Self Rebooter. It's Kite Self Rebooter, but for creature spells, not non-creature spells.
Yeah, I think they thought of that when they were printing this card to make sure that it wasn't the 7-mana side wasn't completely messed up if you Bloodbraid Elf into it or if you Violent Outburst into it or whatever. So yeah,
it's a pretty respectable. It's a pretty respectable card, if you have the 7-mana lying around.
Well, yeah, and then it's just like a hate card you can play in your main deck now in Jund. Like you just play this, and if you cascade into it, you can cascade, and you're playing against Dredge or whatever. You can. I guess you can't exile their graveyards immediately. Pardon me. I was sitting here staring at the card like, oh, you could just exile their graveyard immediately. It's just graveyard hate, but it's not.
No, it's more of a it's like in addition to being really good against Uro, it's also just like a fair card to play against like a Gruul deck in Standard or like I hate to say this, but like creature decks in Modern, like it's okay against those two because those are the decks like the thing about Kitesail Freebooter, right, is that like the decks with non-creature spells are also the ones that play removal spells and they can kill the Kitesail Freebooter and get their cards back. But the creature decks interaction, so it's a little bit more hateful for it to be for it to hit creatures because you play this against humans and they have 4 Reflector Mage in their deck and that's it. The card might stay there for a long time.
Yeah, so I think that this one's really the first that we've gone through that's a real all-star consideration. Maybe not all-star, but a real consideration for Modern, or definitely Pioneer and up, but for Modern and up. I could even see this in Legacy where you have cards that are super specific, but also that are like
I think
universal that you could play.
I think it might actually be better in Legacy than in Modern. Because in Modern, it's got a big run in 6 problem. But they banned that card in Legacy, so you might be it might be actually more playable in Legacy.
That goddamn card, that goddamn set. I always forget that Renin 6 is legal in Modern, but not legal in Legacy.
Yeah, it's one of the very few cards where that's the case.
Man. Okay, well, is there anything else you want to say about Valky, or are we good to move on?
No, I think this card's pretty powerful, and it's going to see a lot of play.
So the next card on our list is actually not correct, so I'm going to have to look up Egon, God of Death, and the Throne of Death. So Egon, right up my alley, really, with a 3-mana 6/6 with a drawback here. I love a good 3-mana card where I have to screw myself to try to get it to work. But this one, the first time I saw it, I think it might actually be able to get there in some sort of format, especially because you have this back half also that sort of can give you a bit of card advantage if you draw 2 copies or if this one dies or something like that.
Yeah, this kind of feels like what Hogak should have been. It's like a big creature it's like a big undercosted creature and you have to have a graveyard in order to cast it. Like after the Faithless Looting ban might have hit this type. You do get the card back if you ever fail the test in your upkeep, but there's still cards like Citrus Supply running around or like Hedron Crab that can mill yourself pretty fast. So this might still be like a finisher for like a crab vine deck. I don't know what types of cards those are playing now. Oh, and as far as the back half goes, it's kind of slow at doing like enabling your graveyard, but it only costs 1 mana too, and it's on like it has a nice flexibility there because if you can't exile 2 cards in your upkeep, you can play the Throne of Death instead, get your graveyard filled up.
Also, I think it's sort of lost and tucked away on the card here, where it says at the very bottom, if you can't do the exile 2 cards from your graveyard, you get to sack it and draw cards. So your 3-mana 6/6 gets to sit and play and maybe attack them or block, and then too bad I can't do it. I guess it replaces itself. So yeah, I'm going to be definitely trying to fit this into something.
It's not card disadvantage if your graveyard gets nuked.
Yeah. So I think that this one gets maybe an incomplete grade until we can see how stuff fits out, but I think this one's on a list definitely to look at. So our next card is Contagious Fears, which is sort of a souped-up version of Infest, but also just very hateful towards specific creature types. So what do you think?
Yeah, so anytime that you can play a Wrath God that doesn't affect your side of the board, I'm going to pay attention. This one, that type of effect is just really powerful to just kill all their creatures and keep all yours. The awkward part about this card is that I don't know if there's a deck that can pay for 2 black mana, 2 regular mana, is interested in dealing with opposing creatures and only plays 1 creature type or 1 or 2 creature types. I kind of thought about that vampire zombie weird hybrid sacrifice deck that we've been running into in the Moto leagues.
That deck is sick.
This one might be a good sideboard card for that deck. But this is a very powerful card that doesn't have doesn't have a home yet. Something to keep your eye on is if in future sets, if vampires or zombies for some reason get a really sick card, then this card will just own the mirror.
Yeah, I think we might.
Or not the mirror, but
this might be mirror. Sort of a plant. I think there are a lot of cards in the set that are plants for what's to come, especially with the D&D set. So this might be something to think about, if Elves actually gets pretty powerful, and we're going to get there with some of the Elves that are powerful in the set anyway.
Elves is a deck that can definitely pull this card off if it ever gets powerful enough.
So, speaking of Elves, our next card is Elderfang Disciple, and I think this one's pretty self-explanatory, but might be something to go for as a Ravenous Rats?
Yeah, it's Ravenous Rats.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Ravenous Rats. Or maybe Burglar Rat, actually, but...
Yeah, Elvish Visionary plus Wirewood Symbiote has taught me not to underestimate this type of card. It's definitely worse than Elvish Visionary, but you only get to play 4 of those. And speaking of it gives you a different angle of attack as Elves and Legacy, being able to, make a discarded card, pick it back up, cast it again. Let's say once you get enough mana and a Wirewood Symbiote. So with control matchups or combo matchups, maybe sometimes they struggle in those against removal control or combo.
Yeah, so we've got another elf here as our next black card, and the last one actually in Skemfar Avenger. So this one on first look looks just like a pretty solid card if you're trying to play beatdown elves. To me, I don't know. It's like a Midnight Reaper except for elves. Yeah,
so it definitely has Midnight Reaper vibes. The annoying part is that it doesn't trigger when it itself dies, unlike Midnight Reaper. You are getting to pay 1 mana less though, so you should have thought that you wouldn't get such a sick deal.
Yeah.
But this one feels more like a modern elves card to me, as a way to protect yourself from Wrath of God. That deck has a kind of a big Wrath of God problem. But it is also interested in doing a little bit of attacking. It still wants to do the elf thing where you play a bunch of mana dorks and then you tap Druid and overrun. But it's still interested in getting a too. So good sideboard card for elves in modern.
Yeah, I think elves definitely gets some help with this set, and so We're just going to skip over the red cards because we're talking about elves already. So let's just get to the red cards later. But we'll talk about Elvish Warmaster right now. And so this one, I think this and some other of the elves coming up might be their Wizards' little push and nudge into, hey, we don't want beatdown elves to be a deck that's not playable in Modern anymore, and we don't really want the combo elves version that exists in Legacy, so we're going to kind of get this median ground here, especially with this card. And this card's pretty exciting, especially if you like elves.
Yeah, you notice there that they put that the ability triggers only once each turn, because that'd be pretty crazy if you could play this card alongside, the Heritage Druid and the Glimpse of Nature kind of thing in Legacy.
Yeah.
But this one is I think a nice supplement to the other 2-drop that made a token in Modern. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. Yeah, this is a nice supplement to Dwinen's Elite. Instead of having to have an elf already, you have to have an elf afterward, but you can do it repeatedly. So it might be a little bit worse. It might be a little bit better if you're actually trying to play a long game, which is not always the case in Modern. So I think this is a nice addition to that elf deck potentially.
And getting another overrun type ability, so you have Azuri and this card. It sort of adds redundancy, and yeah, it just seems like I'm gonna want to try out Beatdown Elves when this set comes out on Magic Online. So maybe there's some sort of elf deck in Standard you can play on Arena or Historic also, but definitely in Modern, I'm gonna want to try this out. This next card I saw, and I don't think I believed what I read from the translation that I saw, and I was like, they can't be the card. But the next card is In Search of Greatness, and as a former Birthing Pod player, this isn't quite Birthing Pod, but it's something weird. It's like a Oath of Druids-ish kind of card going on here.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fixed Fires of Invention, like a little bit of it's kind of like Ether Vial. You get like mana for permanence in your upkeep, sort of. You could you could just play it straight up just as a way to get extra mana. At the bare minimum, it counts itself, and you can play a 3 mana permanent in your upkeep. You could also go you could also cheat and put Gurmag Angler and Gristlebrand in your deck. That's kind of the combo route if you wanted to do that. I'm not sure if that's where you want to go, but it makes a lot of mana, but like you have to spend it on permanents and at an awkward time. It's kind of a weird card.
This is a very strange card. It's very wordy.
Yeah, I thought that it was worthy of a look.
Yeah, there's
any card that can put Gristlebrand into play. You gotta
you gotta give
at least give it the time of day. Yeah.
So our next card is another split card, and it's sort of cheating here because it's a Sultai card if you're looking at color pips. But
oh yeah, we goofed on that one. That's
whatever. Okay. Who cares? It's Yorn, God of Winter, and Cauldring the Rhyme Staff. And so if there was ever a Secret Lair Skyrim edition, I think that this card would be in it. But what are we thinking about Yorn, which I see snow permanents and I see untap and I get scared.
Yeah, no, I did have a little heart attack when I see like the type line snow artifact. But this one it kind of reminds me of Emry a little bit, and I think there might be combo potential with Paradox Engine. So not a combo you can play, but one that might be portable from Historic or in Modern Pioneer. Because if you regrow a snow permanent, then you untap immediately with the Paradox Engine, and then you get to do it again if you have some other pieces. I think there's potential for some Paradox Engine shenanigans.
Once again, I think that's going to be the theme of the day for me, because it's usually the theme of the day for me in Magic in general. I'm going to let somebody who's smarter than me figure this one out, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, the last couple cards were a little bit tricky.
So if
thankfully we're onto the next card.
Yeah, if we're going from Brain Genius cards to Gruul Smash cards, this is my wheelhouse right here. This is a triple green Old Growth Troll. This is we were making the joke about this card that, if you're playing mono green aggro and you need a triple green 3-drop that's not Yorvo, that's not Steel Leaf Champion, that's not Leatherback Baloth, well, this is your man.
Yeah, okay. Look, I reread it. I reread it, and I think it's better than Yorbo. So it's in solid second place after Steel Leaf Champion because I
Okay.
think the fifth power, I think five power is just better than getting a second troll like 2 turns later.
Yeah.
Because okay, yeah, it's a little bit wordy, but basically when it dies, you can sacrifice a land to get a token copy of this card, basically.
Yeah, or you can get double mana.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
It
doesn't
also,
matter.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe if
You're
you need the fourth mana to hit Collected Company or something stupid, but I think, yeah, it's definitely better than Yorvo because it's not legendary, and that's coming from somebody who got to the Pro Tour because of Yorvo. But I think I would rather play this card than Yorvo, honestly.
yeah. If you're, yeah, I mean, Gabe Nassif was playing that mono green Stompy deck even in modern, so I mean that is a deck that exists, and this is definitely an upgrade to that deck.
Yeah, and
Very good with Collected Company. That deck had issues with like Fatal Push and getting its creatures killed, and this card helps you beat those sort of strategies. So
the trample is also very nice on this card. I'll say that as the last thing because there's not really much to talk about, which is what I love.
yeah, if Hogak taught me anything, it's the power of trample.
Yeah. So our next card is one that I saw immediately and sent you a Facebook message of, but does it go in humans? And that's Realm Walker because does it go in humans?
Question. The age-old question. I think Militia Bugler does this job better in humans, but if you're playing like because you want to search for specific pieces, the nice thing about I will say the nice thing about it in humans is that humans like plays artificially low land count because of you play 6 Horizon Canopies, so you're more likely to hit a human. But it's pretty awkward if you don't draw this card with Ether Vial because you don't generate a lot of mana. So you have to like play if you don't have Ether Vial, you play this, you spend 3 mana, you play this, you look at the top card, it's 2-drop, you don't have enough mana for it, you untap, you draw, you look at it again, and it's a Mantis Rider, and you have to cast that, and you don't get to you don't get to go again because you missed your 4th land drop. It doesn't really line up great as far as like you want to play this in a deck that generates a lot of mana, and humans doesn't do that.
So elves.
Yeah. If there's a creature type in green that generates a lot of mana, you don't say. Yeah. So this card slots okay into elves because it doesn't conflict with Collected Company. I saw our friend Justin lost to a Beast Whisperer the other day at Collector Legion, and this seems a little bit like it seems actually play it because it doesn't mess up your Collected Company account.
So by the other day, you mean like last year because that's the last time we played Physical Magic, right?
Yeah, no, I don't want to say what tournament specifically I saw this happen. Or no, I don't think. Forget. I just saw there was a Beast Whisperer.
Yeah, it wasn't our friend.
It reminded me of this card. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now we'll get to what I think is. They always have one of these like common or uncommon cards that are like a plant that you can tell, and it's like Fatal Push or some other cards that are just like, oh, that's very obviously pushed as a common or an uncommon, and that's Masked Vandal. So what do we think about this one? Which this one I think definitely could go into the sideboard of a humans type deck.
Yeah, this one actually does. The age-old question, does it go in humans? I think this one actually might get the job done because before you'd have to like pick. You'd have to choose between the human that killed enchantments and the human that killed artifacts, and it was kind of like it messed up your sideboard space. This one does both, although it does have the drawback. You have to have a dead creature in your graveyard in order to do it. So it might be a little awkward sometimes, but it's like 1 less mana than Reclamation Sage. So you're getting a 1 mana, a 2 mana 1/3 is better in most situations. Mana 2/1, I would say in modern.
And then for EDH, obviously, this one's great too. So
I'm a little disappointed because when I first read the card, I thought you could target either player's graveyard, so you could like play this against Dredge and kill like exile one of their things and kill their Shriekhorn or whatever.
Yeah.
But it has to be you have to have the dead creature, which makes it awkward sometimes.
Yeah, that's pretty awkward, especially if you're playing, RIP Affinity. But if Affinity was the thing, this would probably be pretty hard to actually get off to go. But the next card we're going to talk about is, we also goofed again with this one because it technically is 5 colors. And this one, if the last card was the common uncommon plant for Eternal formats, this is the, hey, this goes in your EDH deck, dum-dum, plant here of Asika, God of the Tree, and the Prismatic Bridge. And so you can only play it in 5 color decks, but in 5 color decks, in EDH at least, this one's real good. is there something to this one besides EDH that you think?
Okay, so Eskia, the nice thing about it is that it makes all your legends tap for mana. Whenever I see a card that affects legends, I think of Kethis, and that deck sometimes wants to generate extra mana in order to like combo off through disrupt. So that could be a place where it sees play. Kethis also is kind of close to being a prismatic bridge, funnily enough. I don't know if you find a way to squeeze a 5-color source into Kethis. Chromatic Star, maybe? I don't know.
Something like that.
So
I've already played
little,
that.
that's a nice little upside, too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But other than that, this one's EDH all the way, baby. So we'll get rid of that one. And the next one is Tyvar Kell, which is another one of our Beatdown Elves cards. It's one of the Planeswalkers in the set. So I think I should revise my statement that I wrote here, but I do think that Collected Company might be reaching the point where it's not actually a good card to play. So this card might be able to replace Collected Company in that sort of beatdown elf style deck, because this isn't going anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly just a card for elves. I think there are some problems here with Tyvar Kell, like just in the nature of its design. Okay, it's like just going through the abilities one by one, making your elves tap for mana, even if it's a different color of mana, is not the best, because like that's what, like if you're playing elves, most of them are going to probably tap for mana anyway. Like making them all tap for black can not the best ability. Putting a counter and untapping an elf, an okay ability, not one that I want to play 4 mana for. Making a 1/1 token, like if I'm paying 4 mana for a card and it's going to generate tokens, I want it to be getting an Ally of Zendikar and make 2/2s. Like 1/1 is a little bit below the curve. The ultimate wins the game, so that's good. You want your ultimates to win the game, but it's not the most. It's just the least important part of the card. So I think this one misses the mark. It's just doing too many things and like not enough the right way.
Yeah, none of them are like flashy enough to see play here. So the last card, which is technically a green card but also has a 5-color identity, you're going to be seeing a lot of it in Standard, is the World Tree. So this one, obviously you're going to see it in Standard because it's a non-legendary land and it sort of fixes your mana after you have 6 of them. But what do you think about this one?
So this, if Loki, Tybalt, Valky, whatever you want to call him, is the most powerful card in the set, this one is in contention as well. Not because it's like, breaking the game wide open, but because the opportunity cost is really low. Like you play a tap land once, and then all your mana is fixed for the rest of the game. So my mind jumps to Niv Mizzet, or maybe some like strategies like not like a Tron, but maybe like some sort of Urza, Uro, Omnath deck.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of cards where you want to play a lot of colors, you want to have different lands to go with your Field of the Dead, and this card can help you cast a bunch of like Cryptic Command into Cryptic Command blue 1 into
Broodmate Dragon.
Yeah, Omnath, which is white, red, green, blue.
So we're going to jump ahead in the queue here a little bit and just get this card off the list quickly, and that's Maskwood Nexus. And so this card with the World Tree, if you activate it and you have this in play, and you have a bunch of slivers in your deck, you just put every sliver that's in your deck into play.
We got to do the meme of we got to do the meme on this one. We hit the meme with the Frank Carson meme, but the meme of this one, of course, is that it says any number of god cards, which of course includes the Egyptian god cards.
Yes, from, of course.
A different game.
Open up your binder and get Slifer the Sky Dragon and put it into play, and it's a 5,000 attack or whatever, and kill your opponent immediately.
Yeah, and you tell your EDH opponents, like, deal with it, bro. Yeah. It says any number.
Yeah, screw you.
It doesn't say magic card.
That's a cute interaction. I don't think it's good enough to be casting a 4-mana artifact that doesn't do anything outside of you having a bunch of mana and this card in place. So we just had to get that out of the way, because that is something that you could technically do, that you might see at your local Modern tournament whenever, of course, you can get back to that. So we skipped the red cards. We're going to go back around to the red cards, and we're going to start off with Goldspan Dragon. So our friend here in the long line of 5-mana dragons with haste that do stuff Obviously, my favorite being Thundermail Hawkite. I think Eli's favorite being Glorybringer, and then Stormbreath Dragon having a happy little medium in between there. Where does this one fit in with his older brothers on the list?
This one is just disrespectful to my boy Glorybringer, your boy Thunder, my Hellkite. Like, okay, so we have to keep in mind that there's a second ability where it doubles your mana on treasure if there's some sort of deck that pops off with that. You can play a 2-drop the turn after you attack with this, but most of the time I would rather have protection from white, or I would have the Flame Slash effect from the Stormbreath Dragon and the Glorybringer.
Yeah. So this one, if you're playing green red Ponza, you have a lot of choices, and I don't think this is the one. So let's get that out of the way. And then we've got Crush the Weak, which is another in the long line of cards that screw over what Eli and I are trying to do, especially me because of the last part of this card. But what do you think about this one?
Yes, this one is basically Anger of the Gods, but for decks that can't pay double red. So, I don't know, Ponza sometimes has a hard time making double red on turn 3. So we were talking about that deck. But it also has the Foretell ability, so you can put it off to the side and then have a really nice turn where you sweep the board for just 1 mana, including, it's got the Exile clause too.
Yeah.
So you can get rid of any persistent threats as well. The free tough, only dealing 2 means that it's going to be worse sometimes. Like, it doesn't hit Prized Amalgam out of Dredge or Mantis Rider out of Humans. But I think you have to keep in mind that this card is a pretty good if you can't make double red.
Yeah, and they always have to print cards to stop the best card in the history of Modern, Kitchen Finks. So
yeah, you got to put the kibosh on the Kitchen Meister.
Okay, the next card is one that was relatively that was spoiled relatively late here, and that's Bergi, whatever, God of Storytelling, and Harnfell, the Horn of Bounty. So you take one look at either of these cards, and there's a card you're going to say that you told me that I almost crapped my pants when I looked at it because I didn't know what the card did. This just screams for somebody to break this with Storm or with some degenerate decks. So what's the word on breaking this card or these two cards?
Okay, so this is like a Baral. You pay 1 more mana, and you basically the upgrade you get is that it's not just instants or sorceries that you get you're getting your mana out of. It's any kind of spell. So that lets you combo off in different ways than Baral. Grinning Ignis is just like a random card from Time Spiral that basically gives you infinite enter the battlefield triggers or whatever with this card. It's like a Grinning Ignis is a 3/1, and you can pay a red to return it to your hand and make 3 mana. So that's it's infinite something. It's kind of awkward to combo off that way. But I think the nice part about this card is that you get kind of like your expensive Baral, but the back half is also something that you would like in a combo deck. You discard you can sift through a bunch of cards really fast if you're discarding a card and then being able to cast the 2 cards off the top of your deck. So it's the sort of effect that type of a deck would want.
So you said Ignis, and I thought of Tunnel Ignis, which is the only one that I
you got excited, but little did you know that Time Spiral's here to ruin your day.
Yeah, Time Spiral's always there to ruin my day. Okay, so this next one, speaking of ruining people's days, this is the perfect segue to some more Frank Karsten math here.
Oh, yeah.
And this one is never going to be up to any good. You're not going to be using this card for any good, and that's Tybalt's Trickery. And so we'll just start off right off the bat with the, 53 land, 4 Emrakul, some number of copies of Violent Outburst, and then this card, where you can cast Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, 85% of the time or whatever on turn 3 with the London Mulligan. So is that what jumps out to you about this card immediately, or what do you think about this card?
Yeah, you're not. When it was first spoiled, I saw people who were like, "Well, if you have Teferi Time Raveler, it's just a counterspell," and I'm like, "Well, you can." But Teferi's blue, dude. You can just play a counterspell. Yeah, you're thinking about this the wrong way, dude. You're playing this and you're targeting your engineered explosives for 0, and then cascading into flipping cards until you hit Emrakul, or you're countering your Violent Outburst, Cascade. Until you hit Emrakul. This card has a best friend. His name is Emrakul, or her name is Emrakul. Um, but the good news is that those types like this like those types of decks kind of have this awkward fail rate where like if you draw the Emrakul, you just die.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you might be able to play more than one Emrakul, but still, if you just like randomly like draw like multiples of your Emrakul, then your deck doesn't do anything, or like the London Mulligan will make it so that you don't have quite as high a fail rate, but you still have a pretty bad fail rate. Like I think we're gonna be safe. I think we're avoiding a Neoform scenario.
Yeah,
here.
I think if you're playing a deck that just wants to kill them and put Emrakul into play or something stupid into play on turn one, Neoform's probably your best shot because that also gets to play blue cards.
Yeah, if you're just like literally high rolling your mulligan,
yeah.
I think we're gonna be okay. I think we're gonna be okay.
Okay, as long that you heard it here first. Eli's telling you that you're gonna be okay. If you're not okay, then I don't know. But the next card is one that I know that you are very excited about. I'm excited about it for other reasons, but that is Pyre of Heroes. And so this one, you can either do the same creature type, you can split up the creature types as long as it's like cleric on 1, elf, and then an elf on 4, or cleric on 4, or something like that. But you can sort of split it up if you work the curve, which is why I think that this card might take some time and some energy into actually making it work outside of just goblins.
Yeah, okay, so the first place that my mind jumped is Goblins, because Goblins has all the criterias within one creature type, so you don't have to you don't have to spend hours in the middle of the night on Scryfall, like cross-referencing the creature types to make sure you can go up the chain. Yeah, but okay, Goblins has creatures that are good to sacrifice. It's got lots of things you want to tutor up. It's got you want a Shatter Goblin, you want your Token Goblin, you want your deal damage Goblin, you got your combo piece, your Kiki Jiki, your Persist Goblin to combo off with the +1/+1 counter Goblin. Yeah. Oh yes, I wanted to also say that Goblins also has a combo that you can tutor up too, with the Sacrifice Outlet plus what's the name for the Eldraine guy? All right, we can get that later, but it has an infinite combo, I think is important. After Goblins, it gets a little bit tougher. You might have to branch out into more than one creature type. I was thinking Clerics gives you access to Deceiver Exarch and lots of some stuff that might be good to sacrifice. Then you have to find a way to get Kiki-Jiki.
Cleric Shamans or something like that.
Yeah, Goblins, Shamans, Burning Tree Emissaries, a Shaman. There are some Shamans.
Burning Tree Emissary is pretty damn good with this card.
Yeah, because you get the 2 mana for free.
Yeah.
Burning Tree Shaman, I was thinking was a tutor target that is a hate card for the Heliod combo deck. Burning Tree Emissary right into Burning Tree Shaman.
That's flavor.
Gotta have the flavor win. But yeah, this card has a lot of potential, and I think the first place I'm gonna definitely be bringing some Goblin decks with this in Modern. After that, we'll have to see where it goes.
So we'll go to our last. Well, actually, we've got some lands coming up here, but we'll go with our last actual, permanent card here in Weathered Runestone, which is just another card here that loves messing with stuff I like doing. So what do you think about this one?
This is a very minor upgrade, but it's an important one because it's a Grafdigger's Cage, but it hits more interactions, but you have to pay 2 mana. Normally, I'm thinking the Grafdigger's Cage will get the nod because it costs 1, but Chalice of the Void exists, and if you're a Chalice of the Void deck and you need Graveyard Hate, I think this might be the best option out there for you. You got your Tormod's Crypt if you want a one-shot, but you can't play cards like Grafdigger's Cage. You can't normally play cards like Rest in Peace. You can't play cards like Relic of Progenitus. So this is an Eldrazi Tron or a Mud card. You can tutor up with Karn. A little bit of a minor upgrade.
Yeah, it's I just hate cards like this because I love.
It's all right.
Yeah. I gotta pour one out for my buddy. Okay, so we'll go to the Pathways now, which I know you've told me a couple times, and I haven't actually seen them, but it makes sense why. So we're getting what is it? The red-black, the blue-white,
Blue
and
green.
blue green. So all the three most fucked up colors from the past year and a half
and
of
Golgari
Magic.
too.
And
Golgari too.
Okay, we'll add that in there. So we had 6 last time. We got 4 this time. I don't have no idea why they split it up like that. Normally it's 5 and 5, but whatever. Pathways, just in general, because we have all of them now. What do you think about pathways going forward in Modern and Pioneer, Vintage, whatever?
Yeah, I think people kind of underrate these cards. Like, so pathways are the dual land that you want to play if you want your land untapped after turn 4, because otherwise you'd play the Mirrodin or the Kaladesh lands. And if you don't want to take damage, the pathway is also going to get the nod. So in a deck like Ad Nauseam, you might be able to play some of these. That deck was leaning on its fast lands a lot, but it has an expensive card. It's got Ad Nauseam, it wants to cast Ad Nauseam, so Seachrome Coast is sometimes awkward in that deck, whereas the blue-white flip one, the mana requirements in Ad Nauseam are sometimes strict, sometimes not. So you can afford to pick one type of land and stick with it.
Okie dokie. So speaking of lands, and obviously the pathways are going to be good in Standard and wherever else you want more dual lands.
Yeah,
but these uncommon spell lands, so the blue-black one is nuts. But what do you think about these lands? Because these are obviously auto-includes in EDH decks. All 10 of them go in. Is there 10? There's 10, right? Yeah, there's 10. I just said blue-black.
Yeah, there's
I'm
one
dumb.
for each color.
Pardon me. But all of these lands go in EDH decks. What do you think? Is there a possibility that some of these lands could make the jump to Eternal formats?
Yeah, so having spent the last however many years of my life under the thumb of Amulet Titan, I'm never gonna look at like a weird land with an activated ability the same way again. Some of them jump out to me more than others. I think for Modern, like you said, the blue-black one has potential because it's like that's just reanimating is just a powerful effect. But I think the blue-green one, which clones one of your, you get a token copy of a clone, one of your permanents. The obvious thing to do with that, go play a Primeval Titan. You don't have an amulet, grab this one, try to untap and copy your Titan. The blue-red one also is a Pyroclasm, which is a pretty powerful effect to have just like stable to your land. I think that one might also be a tutor target for your Teamer, Scape Shift, your Amulet Titans.
When they unban Splinter Twin.
Yeah, you can play one of these in Splinter Twin for sure.
So outside of that, some of them obviously are better than others, but all of them I think are going to see play in EDH in some form. Our last land here is I'm going to say it's Heavy Metal Mutavault in Faceless Haven. So is this better than Mutavault? That's the question on everybody's mind.
Yeah, so if you were ever going to go up 5 Mutavaults, like this would be the next guy. This might be the next guy off the bench. It's a pretty powerful card, and it gets edged out by Mutavault. So if you're in the market for a bunch of these, you start playing these. Thinking of maybe Merfolk because it also is a changeling, just like Mutavault. You can play lots of snow lands in that deck as well. But it's just a powerful card, even though it's not strictly worse, but worse than one that's already out there.
And so finally, we're going to wrap it up with our sagas. And so the first one is one that I immediately slammed on the list because this card is awesome, and that is Arnie Slays the Troll. And so I'm guessing that this one is could be something in like a Burning Tree Emissary type deck that you're going to go for.
Yeah, it's a pretty good fight effect if you're in the market for that. You got a lot of value in addition to your removal spell for just 2 mana.
It's really that simple, folks. It's not that hard to evaluate this card. So the next one we're going to go to is Herald, King of Skemfar. Which
this one's not a saga.
This one's not a saga, but whatever. These are our
gold cards. These are the gold cards.
Yeah, we've already done some gold cards, but we're idiots here on this show. So we're just going to go straight to Herald, King of Skemfar. So what do you think about this one for elves in particular?
Once again, it's the perfect converted mana cost for an elf. You can play it on turn 2 with your Llanowar Elf, and you can go get it with Collected Company and get max value. this card there were cards you could play to generate card advantage in elves, but there was the 4 mana one that comes into play, and you look at the top five and you get all of them, but it doesn't work with Collect Company. And there's Elvish Visionary, which you get a card, but you only get a 1/1 out of the deal. This is kind of like the best of both worlds. You get a 3/2, and you get to grab a card out of the top of your deck. So if Elves is interested in playing, if you're interested in not being all in on attacking or comboing off with overruns, then this is a nice card to kind of bridge the gap and uh, get your combo pieces or just grind them out.
It also finds Tyvar, so maybe is this in the intro deck or no? Is this in the
No,
actual set?
This is just I think every color has an uncommon legend. I think this is just the green-black one.
Okay, I was just thinking because it finds Tyvar, and so normally the card says, "Oh, look at the top cards and find a creature or the planeswalker in the intro deck."
Yeah,
but...
yeah, it isn't. That is that card is that I think a lot of the Elves Matter cards in this set also just say Tyvar on them.
It's good with me.
So yeah.
So we've got our second to last card here in Showdown of the Scalds. So we've got a white-red card. It's a saga. And this one, it's a lot like Outpost Siege-ish, but then you also have this the second and third, I guess, sagas on it. So actually, Outpost Siege might not be the best one. It's like Escape from the Wilds.
Yeah.
There you go.
We just saw that card get banned as standard. It's a pretty powerful card. You're missing out on the extra land drop, but you also don't have you have to pay one less mana. I think this card's pretty powerful. It just looks at a lot of cards. I think the awkward part about this card is that it's in red white. Normally not a color combination that's interested in digging for like a burst of card advantage. If there's some sort if there's my mind jumps to combo decks where you'd want to get a burst of cards and then like cast the combo pieces from among them, instead of just like if you were Jeskai, you would just play like a normal draw spell.
Yeah.
But like 4 mana for 4 cards is just a good rate, even if it's in a color combination that normally doesn't want it.
Yeah, if there's like a red-white storm deck, I guess this is perfect for it. You can put +1
some sort of combo deck that like needs a white card to go off and like has artifacts in it probably, and like it just needs a home.
Yeah, which once again, smarter people figure that out. That's not my job. So the last card we have here, I just want to ask you, Eli, when you went to Hawaii, did you stay at the Four Seasons Hotel?
Obviously we went to the Three Seasons.
Okay, because our next card is the Three Seasons, and there's my terrible joke of the day.
You get a discount.
So this one seems on the surface pretty innocuous, but what's going on here?
Honestly, I just wanted to wrap up the show by giving you nightmares because Chapter 2 returns 2 snow permanents from your graveyard to your hand, and like I just wanted you to think about getting the enemy player getting 2 Ice Fang Coatls into their hand, and then just like stomping you with them. And I don't really card is that insane in Modern, but I just wanted you to think about that.
Yeah, I just thought about that. Okay, I'm gonna go cry. But yeah, so that's it for the set. I think for a standard legal set that doesn't on its face look too horribly fucked up like we've had with the past couple sets, especially Throne of Eldraine. This set actually looks like it's going to be pretty fun across the board for everybody. What just generally are you excited for Kaldheim? Are you stoked for any of these things? Like I know I've said I want to play elves. I want to look into beatdown elves. I know obviously we're going to try spirits. Is there anything from Kaldheim that you're just looking forward to playing or whatnot? What do you think is the best card in the set also? Yeah,
so we're definitely not doing the Throne of Eldraine, like, turn every format on its head, Field of the Dead type stuff. But, this is a set that I think people are kind of sleeping on. I think there are some playable cards in here that are going to slot into a lot of different types of decks. You got your elves, which some of them are modern, some of them are legacy. You got your other tribal cards. There's a weird amount of like random combo potential. Like we talked about, like a Baral and a birthing pod, and making 146 exactly that, not no more no less, master
Exactly.
wave tokens, some stuff like that. Oh, Tibalt, yeah, like putting Emrakul into play. So
Yeah.
like the set's kind of weird. It's a tribal set. It's got some combo cards. It's got some tribal cards. Kind of what I would expect from a set like sets out like this.
Okie dokie. Well, I guess that's it from us two for tonight. So make sure to come back and watch this again when some other card that we didn't mention is completely busted in Legacy, and you can call us a bunch of idiots. But I'd like to thank Eli for being here, and I'd like to thank you for watching.